Howdy, howdy. This is Ben Wheeler, and I'm here with Anthony Marchetta. And today we're going to talk about Satoshi's Kon, probably greatest masterpiece, Paprika. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm having a good day. How about you?
Oh, it's getting better. 13 hours in. Uh, but we're not here to talk about my personal feelings or whatever. We're here to talk about Paprika. Paprika was a science fiction movie made by Satoshi Kon, one of his last, I believe.
I think
Um,
it is his last movie.
oh yeah, which automatically makes it, just that little bit better. Um, and it's about a psychologist actually, who goes into dreams with her magical pixie girl Paprika to fix her clients' issues and everything else of that nature, as you would expect a psychologist to do. What follows is probably some of the most inventive animation of the double aughts, as well as some great character work. The voice acting is fantastic in the English version, um, and it's honestly one of the best uh, Satoshi Kon pictures that I've seen for just sort of mass appeal, I guess I'll say. Uh,
Yeah, I could see that. I've
just
seen.
mhm.
I'm not totally unfamiliar with Satoshi Kon. I saw before Paprika, I should say. Before Paprika, I did see Perfect Blue,
Yeah,
and I would say that that had probably more niche appeal than Paprika. Weirdly,
yeah,
although on the other hand, I'm not really a fan of horror as a rule. And some people really, really love horror, so maybe Perfect Blue was the more mainstream movie. I don't know. Because I would not call Paprika a horror movie, more like a thriller.
yes,
Perfect Blue was definitely a horror movie, though it was a horror movie with a oddly optimistic ending. A surprisingly optimistic ending, but
right.
I wasn't a big fan of Perfect Blue. I thought it was like fine. You know, I found it fine. Paprika I probably liked a little bit more. Uh,
Hmm.
I didn't love it, just not my style. I did watch the sub, not the dub, so I watched it in Japanese. Uh, just not. I don't know. I guess not really my style. Normally my style. I'm also not entirely clear on everything that was happening, which is, of course, as everybody will scream and yell in your face, is the point.
I mean, I completely disagree with the masses. You can tell what's happening at any given time. It's just very
I don't
jumbled
really
up.
get how they were combining dreams. I don't really get how that worked.
So it's that classic dreams become reality because everyone's dreaming at the same time sort of thing. So everyone's dreams, at the end of it, everyone's dreams comes out through the application of the DC Mini, through some people, and the death of Osanai within the dream world to
Right, but
create.
like, how was he connecting every? But how is it connecting other people's dreams together?
It's more
Like,
like.
and
Mhm.
I, I don't know. And why couldn't they wake them up? And I don't get it.
So the DC Mini is established to be a broadcast unit for certain people. It's not that everyone's dreams are coming out, but more everyone is affected by a set of dreams that were already in the system. So the schizophrenic dream, that's the parade, uh, is being broadcasted to everyone at the same time, which is why everyone goes a little bonkers. Um, when applied to
Right,
that dream. So they're broadcasting it to everyone's head, even if they don't have a DC Mini. Now, some people who have been affected by it aren't as badly affected by the DC Mini as anything else. But um, the how do I want to put it?
I also thought, by the way, that the romance between Chiba and Tokita, the
Yeah.
fat scientist, was really forced. Like, very badly forced. I did not buy it at all.
For me, it's a mix. Partially because Tokita is a little bit too dense to properly be affected by it. Uh, but also, I view the signs as being there from the beginning. Like when he's stuck, she doesn't think, "Oh, that fat slob." She thinks, "Oh, you got yourself stuck again. I better help you out." And it's kind
Well,
of like,
sure, but I thought of that like a puppy, which is basically what he was. He was he was like a genius idiot.
right,
An idiot savant.
which is
I did not see romantic relationship in that.
I don't know. Like to me, it worked. Partially because of like I'm a firm believer of like you don't choose the waifu chooses you, sort of thing. So it's like she
Even Kanekawa was kind of was pretty surprised, I think. He was just like,
yeah,
"Oh, okay then."
right,
It's like, I guess I lose. I think he even says that word for word. I guess I lose.
right. He kind of has a romance going with Paprika, her alter ego, but he doesn't like he it's kind of
He's
mixed.
indifferent towards Chiba.
Right. She's just kind of a I don't know how I want to put it. She's just kind of a scientist to him. But she's also not the one in his dream world playing around in his thriller dreams.
He catches that she's Paprika when he first sees her, though, or at least he's like he seems like surprised to see her, and she kind of plays it cool, and then he learns she's Paprika, and he says, "I knew it."
Yep. That
So he seemed to have this idea that, oh, you're the one in my dream.
yep. She I'm I don't know, like to me it all made sense in the sort of like dream logic that the movie has going for it because it moves from plot to plot and conversation to conversation relatively quickly for what you would think would be a surreal horror um surreal horror thriller sort of thing.
Yeah, they just don't play up the horror. Like, this very easily could have been a horror movie, but they just kind of don't play up the horror aspect of it.
Right?
Like, they do. There are scenes that are definitely, like when he peels off Paprika's skin to reveal Chiba underneath, and
Yep.
he's clearly, or maybe not clearly, going to rape her, or maybe not, because it's kind of weird what's going on in that scene.
No,
But
he was gonna
you
he
know,
was gonna he was gonna rape her, but
he was going to, but he seemed like he was going to for a very long time before he's interrupted. So
right.
whatever. Anyway, he's going to, that whole scene, like, they sort of play for horror, but then, like, they don't play it for horror in the aftermath. Like, she wakes up and she seems pretty okay. You know,
Right. I
although she
mean,
was unconscious from when she was naked to her waking up. Dream her was unconscious. How does
right.
that even work, by the way?
Right.
But
Though,
she's
like,
unconscious in a dream.
right. I mean, she's kind of aware enough for a lot of this stuff. Like, she knows she's aware of Osanai's betrayal, but I think there's also like a big separation for her between her Paprika self and her Chiba self and personality, which is by design
Yeah.
of the movie. But how do I want to put it? It's not the same as how do I want to put it's like the events don't necessarily I don't know how I want to say it.
It's
Basic
not played for horror. It's played for action. Like, that
right.
whole scene looks like it's going to be played for horror, but then he rescues her, and there's a pretty boss action scene as they
Oh
go
yeah.
through his dream.
Anytime the detective shows up and they go through his dreams, it's just fantastic. Because he even though it's like his dreams and whatever, he still plays it to the hilt. And doesn't like the Satoshi
Yeah,
knew how to sort of let Kanakawa's character, because he's a foreigner to the original story, let his character kind of take off. Um, and, he dreams natural to him.
I guess that's what I would say about it. That it was. I'm trying to think of how to put it. Like the movie, when it could have been played for horror, they decided to play it for action instead,
Right.
which
And,
is a perfectly valid way of doing things, by the way. It's just a different way.
yep. Though it's like the horror aspect of it is still there. Like she's still pinned like a butterfly on Osanai's table. Um, there's still the element of Osanai dying, and his dream self is broadcasted. Sorry, my game froze on me. Um, his dream self, his horror self, is broadcasted through death, um, to various people. Like he's leaving blood stains as he's flickering in and out of existence. It's to me that was fantastic. And then his real body dies, and so
I was also starting to get frustrated at the end of it, like when for I'll tell you what I mean. The first time she wakes up, when he tells her, use the awakening thing, and she wakes up, and
yeah,
then I go, all right, so she's asleep.
right,
And I'm like, 100%, absolutely, there is no way she is awake right now, and she was asleep.
right,
Yeah. And then I think the very next thing we see is like a bloody handprint on like the window behind them. I go, yep, yeah, she's asleep.
right.
So it's one of those movies.
It's not done poorly though. Like I actually love that scene, just because it wasn't so much that she's for that one she wasn't asleep. It's just that the DC mini was now like perma broadcasting, um, which is what I was talking about
Yeah.
before for um, the whatever, because they had the unrestricted one, which Chiba and the rest you were using a restricted one, I guess. There's no good way to say it. Like it's a complex movie at times when it comes to its science fiction, just because you have to kind of separate out like the various inventions for Doctor Takeda um, at certain points, just because he makes a couple of different ones. One of the things that was interesting when I was doing research for this movie is that the original novel, like apparently Satoshi Kon he didn't use the term homophobic, but he's like, wow, I don't think this guy like liked homosexual characters, because all the evilest characters are homosexual within the movie. The chairman's explicitly homosexual. Homuro is
Well, Osanai was going to rape her, so I
he
guess he's not the most evil, but he's pretty.
right, he was selling his body to the chairman for power, and it was um, the chairman implies that he was trying to hijack the guy's body so that he could walk again.
Yeah,
Um,
that seemed to be the implication. So he wanted, if I had it right, the chairman wanted to use the DC Mini so that he could like become omnipotent and control the world by just merging dreams and reality permanently. And the other guy just agreed to do it because he wanted Chiba, and he
yep,
figured he could use this to get Chiba. And that's why they team up.
right. And I figure there's some politicking in there, that sort of thing. But he actually, like, I don't know how he toned it down because I haven't read the original work. Uh, but apparently he's like, yeah, I toned it down. The characters, like, instead of Himuro having some sort of weird hate lust or something like that to Dr. Tokita, he was just weird. Um, with the whole like Japanese like doll kimono thing that he has going for him,
I
which
guess
was creepy.
what I didn't really like about the relationship between Tokita and Chiba was just that I don't know. It was really Tokita, I guess. I don't really buy him as any sort of as ever having a romance. A romance.
Well, that's
Like
part of it.
he's just too gross.
It's kind of part of it though. Like,
She couldn't admit to herself that she had a thing for him. Like was
yeah,
apparently a part of it.
like
And
because
yeah,
she's a
that's
stiff woman. Like she was very
and he's disgusting and
eh,
weird.
yes, but also what are we bachelors to anything to do with the matter of the heart? Um, I assume that quite a few
It just
people are.
seemed weird too, because earlier in the movie, like I'm telling you, I assumed it was gonna be Konakawa. Konakawa seemed to assume it would be Konakawa. I
Yeah.
mean, he took it in good grace. You know, he Konakawa's a cool dude, and he and
Oh, he's
definitely
best
the
boy.
most fun character,
Right.
because he's the most action-oriented character, and he took it pretty well.
Right.
But he was also just kind of like that was not what I expected.
Huh. Right.
I
Right. But
I did not see things going this way.
right. I enjoyed Kanakawa too. Like his addition was an absolute masterpiece. Uh, I don't know. Like to me, like they could have not had the romance and it would have been fine. I want to make that kind of clear. But to me, it didn't offend any of my sensibilities. You know what I mean? Like it didn't break immersion for me because when they interact with each other, uh, if you look at how Chiba acts with Chima acts with Doctor Tokita compared with everyone else, she touches him more than everyone else. Like there's not there's not like the typical romantic things that we see in what we usually watch, but their interactions have more romance in them than I want to say her reactions with most everyone else. You know what I mean? But it's
See
like
though,
we're dealing not with like normal people or anime people or whatever. We're dealing with two scientists that aren't honest with their feelings.
I always thought that she was looking at him as sort of like a puppy more
Eh,
than anything romantic, and she was just comfortable around him because, he's harmless. He's just a big fat idiot who also happens to be a genius at the same time.
eh. I found it all right. With let's see here. A big big part of the I'm trying to think. With the dreams, what did you think about them when they were hopping around from dream to dream? Like the whole sequence, dream hopping sequences.
Uh, I don't know. I didn't have like a particularly strong opinion of it. I don't think.
Hmm. Like with the
Now,
whole.
I watched
Hmm,
this movie yesterday, so to be clear to everybody, so it is fresh in my mind, and that should tell you it didn't leave this huge impression on me, except insofar as I recognize the parade scene as being like the most famous scene of the movie.
yeah, and it's pretty good honestly. Like besides its obvious fame and interactions with things, it did to me, like I don't know, like to me it's like this is a great movie. The character dynamics are great. The end results are pretty good. The um whole thing with Konakawa and his personal issues versus the chairman and his sort of desire and hunger for power and having two legs. It's that work. Uh, it has more than just a certain charm. It sort of, I don't know, like to me it was kind of like the formulation of an absurd ideal where everything is wacky, random, and not necessarily logically connected through an obvious through line, but through the setting, we can sort of overcome. Don't freeze, don't freeze. Ugh. I keep getting this item that freezes the game because it interacts poorly with other items. Um, where it's, I'm just gonna use this moment to rant for a second. Where it's more than just these random events happening in a sequence. It's these wacky and absurd ideas bouncing off each other in just the right way to create something new and fresh. Like I listened to the music a lot when I was a kid. I watched it several times, and one of the things that I got out of it is that one can be absurd with your setting and characters and conversations and so on, and still have a storyline that survives. Excuse me. That survives in a very satisfactory setting, satisfactory way to the end goal.
Yes. Paprika. Look, I don't really. I have nothing bad to say about the movie except that Satoshi Kon generally. I have come to the conclusion after this movie, it's just a guy who doesn't jive with my particular taste normally. I do think it was better than Perfect Blue because I think Perfect Blue, like I could elucidate pretty clearly like what my issues with Perfect Blue were, and I can't do that with Paprika because it doesn't really have any serious issues. Uh, it was an extremely influential movie, apparently. Paprika, like
Yep.
Christopher Nolan's Inception, was apparently, like all but a ripoff of Paprika
Oh,
to
it's there.
according to what
Yeah.
I've been reading about it. I haven't seen Inception, by the way, but
What?
I haven't watched Inception, so I can't judge. And
Huh.
from what I've been reading though, everybody's saying that like at the very least he had to have watched Paprika when he wrote Inception.
I'm legitimately surprised that you haven't seen Inception. Like Inception was kind of a big movie when it came out. Like memes aside, it was like all kinds of wacky um, and very
Just
popular.
never got around to it.
Huh.
With Nolan, I've seen Interstellar, I've seen Dunkirk, and I've seen his Dark Knight trilogy.
Right.
Uh, of those three movies, I thought Interstellar was a masterpiece. The Dark Knight trilogy is okay but overrated, and Dunkirk was quite good.
Interstellar is a masterpiece. Like
So,
legitimately, one of the best space movies ever made. But uh, huh. Uh, yeah. All right.
so I know Paprika had a big impact on, and I'm looking at like they have a whole legacy section on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Is there anything else we'd recognize?
Hmm. No, the legacy section is very short. They
Okay.
were going to make a remake of it, apparently, a live action adaptation, so a remake in 2010, but
Eh,
they never did. Nor should they.
right.
It's a terrible idea. Like a
Absolutely.
terrible, terrible idea.
A Netflix tier idea. Uh, it
The
sounds like some
Netflix adaptation of Paprika.
right. It's
Now, my issue with Perfect Blue was that Perfect Blue got its horror from the fact that you didn't know what was real and what was fake at any given moment, and the character was going insane. But to me, this just kind of robbed a lot of the scenes of actual impact in that I didn't know what was actually happening or not a lot of the time.
Right.
So I didn't know if what was happening mattered to the character or not, or if it was just something that she was going to wake up from. And it made me more like bored and confused. Not bored, bored's wrong, but more confused as to what's going on than terrified at this harsh reality. Because I'm like, she's being attacked by this person, except she's not. That's
Right.
not happening.
I
So, I'm not going to be scared for this scene because she's clearly not being attacked.
right.
Paprika worked better, I think. Mostly because Paprika was all about like turning the entire world into that dream world,
Hmm.
which is at the very least a very unique and interesting idea. By the way, they really don't go into the fact that after all of this is over, like there aren't there going to be repercussions or something? You
Eh,
would think.
I mean,
You would think.
listen, the main villain got sucked into a baby that grew into a woman and then banished the darkness in front of everyone. I don't know, like, what the Japanese society is, but because it involved nudity, they will politely turn their heads and pretend not to see. How about that? Does
I
that
mean,
satisfy you?
I
Because that satisfies dream logic.
I felt as if that. Yeah, sure. No, I felt as if the characters in the movie were reacting similarly to how I did, in that they were just staring with their mouths open, going, "I don't know what's going on here," or
Right,
like they see the girl, they go, "Okay, so that's a girl," and then they're
right.
just like, "Yeah, that's a girl," and then they just kind of watched and said, "Let's see what happens," because I don't fucking know.
That's
Which
the That's basically what happens. Like this baby toddles out of the dream union of Chiba and what was his name? Doctor Tokita, and sucks in the chairman and all his darkness, transforms into an adult Chiba, and yeah, that's it. You know, problem solved. Everyone can go home. I picked up the
which is
item
literally
again.
what happens too. They all just kind of go home and then go like, "Well, that was weird." They go, "Yeah, yeah, it
Right.
was, wasn't it?"
Right. Yeah. So what are you going to do about it? Well, Japanese politeness says we must turn our heads politely, cough, and walk on.
Now I want to know what was going on exactly with Kanekawa, because I know he clearly had something with the homicide case, was messing with, it was
Hmm.
messing with him psychologically, but I didn't really get the whole thing with the movies where he clearly was a big movie buff of old, classic Hollywood cinema,
Right.
but also it made him really uncomfortable to talk about movies, and I wasn't sure what was going on there, except that maybe no, I just don't know. I
All
have no
right.
idea.
So he he basically abandoned his friend while they were making their final piece together. Um, and so his friend had to do everything. Um, and he just went on to do his own thing. Like he abandoned the project, and then his friend died.
Oh, so he just felt guilty about that, and that made
Yeah.
him not, enjoy looking at movies in the future.
Right.
Well, okay then.
Yeah. Like
That's
it.
straightforward.
Yeah. Like it wasn't anything in particular. You know what I mean? Like it was normal life living sort of trauma thing, not necessarily deep seated. Wow, amazing, much trauma. Um, you
Whoa,
know,
whoa, whoa! I just learned something.
so that
Satoshi Kon directed episode 5 of the 1993 JoJo's Bizarre Adventure OVA and
episode.
wrote the screenplay.
Wow, wow, that's interesting. So
That's
as
funny.
always, this brings back to JoJo. Um,
Yeah, that's the adaptation of part 3. Like, it was the final arc of part 3, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I don't
Yes.
remember how many parts.
I have it pulled up on Wikipedia. Yes, that's what it was. So he did the episode The Judgment when Kakyoin and Polnareff fight the Hanged Man.
Right. So that was
That was him, and honestly, that actually kind of makes sense to me.
right. Now that's not the
He also wrote the episode. He wrote the screenplay for it.
right. Now the 1993 one isn't the same as the Stardust Crusaders um, series that came out more recently. We'll say, um, just
Right,
because,
it's not the David Productions.
right. Now I actually liked the ending for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders uh, with the fight with Dio. Like there's just a little bit more polish put into it. They even got an English dub that was pretty wacky, but on all the right ways. But like I've yet to meet an
Oh, the
English,
English dub is hilarious.
right. I just have yet to meet a really good JoJo dub that hits Dio properly. Um, I don't know why. Like they just like the Japanese Dio. We're only going to spend a few more minutes talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure because every stream is probably a little
Yes, I
much.
know.
Uh,
I was just quite surprised to find that out that
right.
about him.
The English voice actor just doesn't do it, but then the Japanese voice actor like just goes into it full bore, and it's absolutely amazing. Uh,
Yeah, I've seen the final Dio fight of the 1993 JoJo.
right.
The final fight, there it had strengths and weaknesses compared to the David Productions version. The David Productions version, of course, has a bit of a production value uptick, but the structure of the fight in 1993, it's all very well paced and builds on
Hmm.
itself quite well.
Yeah.
The one thing that everybody will, and I think correctly point out, is that the ending of the fight is more satisfying in the David Productions version than the 1993 version,
Yep.
which is true because it more directly follows the manga and makes a little bit more sense to my recollection. One thing I did appreciate was how the English voice actor for Dio I thought was actually quite good. He played the part in a very different way than he in a very different way than the David Productions modern version of Dio. He played him with a more like quiet menace,
Yep.
but I actually thought it worked quite well personally.
Yep.
Jotaro was terrible. He was terrible. Uh, oh well.
All right.
Nothing will ever be Kakyoin. Got his eyes. No.
Right.
I look up that video every now and then just to laugh at the dub.
Wow.
That's it. That's all I have to say. I'm done now. I'm
All right.
sorry.
All right. We got it out of our
That
systems.
was important though.
I thought the dub was pretty good for Paprika. The characters were all like just right, and maybe you'd get more out of it in English or something, but it really did uh, hit
It's
it for me,
possible.
especially since it was like 2000 something or other. So first off, you don't get the same like people we get all the time, uh, and like they kind of do it better. Like I've never really been satisfied with most of the English voice actors who show up in like every other um little thing there. Um the Troy Bakers and so on and so forth. Just because if they've got flaws, it's in every production they're ever in. And it boggles me every time. It's like, please don't say something uber dramatic, but in such a deadpan way. Please no. Oh, he's doing it. He's doing that thing everyone thinks is cool, but isn't. Come on.
Okay.
You know,
I'm
like
looking at something interesting. Satoshi Kon died while working on a movie. The movie was called The Dream Machine. They said it was on the surface. This is what he says about it, but I'm telling you this little bit of background because the story behind it's actually kind of interesting. They said on the surface it's going to be a fantasy adventure targeted at younger audiences, but it will also be a film who have seen our films up to this point will be able to enjoy. There will be no human characters in the movie, only robots. It will be like a road movie for robots. Uh, that doesn't tell me much about it. However, this is what I found that's interesting. Apparently, so he died tragically young of pancreatic cancer, which is why he actually has a very small body of work relative to other creators.
Right.
I mean, he's only got 4 movies and 1 show, I think, finished, Satoshi Kon.
Yep.
But they said for 4 to 5 years, I kept searching for a suitable director to complete Cohn's work. Before his death, the storyboard and script, even part of the keyframe film, were already completed. Then I thought, even if someone can mimic Cohn's work, it would still be clear that it's only an imitation. For example, if Mamoru Hosoda took the director's position, the completed Dreaming Machine would still be a good piece of work, but it would be Hosoda's movie, and it should be Cohn's movie, not anybody else's. That means that we cannot and should not compromise only to finish it. I spent years reaching this hard conclusion. Instead, we should take only Cohn's original concept and let somebody turn it into a feature film. By doing so, the completed piece could 100% be that person's work, and I'm okay with that. I also considered doing a documentary on Cohn. So the summary of that is that Madhouse was trying to find somebody who could finish the movie, but they came to the conclusion that Satoshi Kon's style was way too unique. Nobody else could replicate it, and if anybody tried to do so, it would be obvious that it wasn't Satoshi Kon, and it would
Mm-hmm.
be inferior. So instead of scrapping the idea completely, they are going to take the concept of it and pitch it to another director, and possibly use the already completed footage in a documentary that they make on Satoshi Kon. This is from
Mm-hmm.
2016.
Yep.
And in 2018, he revealed that there were no directors that could match Khan's level of ability, which is why it would not be completed. Which, damn, man, that's a harsh thing to say.
Yeah.
Mamoru Hosoda's probably his equal, even though his style is about as different as you could get.
Yeah, but it's more than just like style. It's also kind of spirit and stuff like that. Because Satoshi Kon was very good at hitting the surreal and the um.
FYI, I'm looking at stills from the movie and it looks cool as shit. Uh, I'm just saying.
Right. I love stuff like that because it's like I haven't seen much of it or I don't remember. That's more accurate. Uh, but it's like every time like it comes up, it's like please just do it, man. You know, like just bite the bullet. Like it can be this great thing, but it's also like it's also like a piece of art that hasn't been released yet. And to me that's just kind of like super interesting to sort of to think about because it's like well what if it was released and who would do it, you know. What was the name of the guy he was sort of talking about? Um, Mamoru Hoshida, was that right?
Hosoda.
Hosoda.
Summer Wars,
Yeah,
yeah, Wolf Children. He's a
yeah,
great director, Mamoru Hosoda.
he is. You know, I've got no problem. Summer Wars and
And in
um,
fact, I'm looking at the plot, and weirdly, I do think that Mamoru Hosoda might be able to do a good job on it because I finally was able to find description of the premise, which is a sci-fi movie set in a future in which humans no longer exist, starring an electronic robot named Ririko and the robot she created, Robin. A heartwarming story sure to touch the hearts of all humans, from children to adults. Simple storyline concerning the concept of life itself, generating dreams and objectives, carries a deep message relating to the potential that all humans are invariably instilled with. That actually sounds like something that could be up Mamoru Hosoda's alley. However, the animation style is definitely not the sort of thing that he would normally do. So I could see why, on the flip side, you wouldn't really want him to take it over, halfway through.
Yeah. Just because he won't be able to hit the sort of like animation milestones that people are gonna expect from him.
Yeah, Hosoda. The problem with using Hosoda is that Hosoda's style is so visually recognizable itself.
Mm-hmm.
You can immediately tell a Mamoru Hosoda movie by its visuals.
Yep.
Denu Coil actually looked very similar to Mamoru Hosoda of all things, if I recall, which is why for a movie where the visual finished and it's by another auteur style filmmaker, my dog is barking in the background if you could hear her.
That's all right. Uh,
Anyway, the the point being that it's kind of a shame. I would almost rather just see like what completed stuff they have and read the screenplay than see you know whatever movie they came out with.
yeah. I can agree with that sentiment. Just because it's like it's the sort of like auteur part of me that just wants to see whatever someone can do in their finished sort of state rather than some sort of like half state. Even though, you know, you do want to see it, period, you gotta take what you can get sometimes.
Well, whatever my personal opinions of or experiences, I guess is a better word, of Satoshi Kon stuff. I have great respect for Satoshi Kon as somebody who is definitely, an auteur is a good word for it. He's definitely somebody who has an immediately, recognizable style. There's nobody who makes films really like him. He's in like on the American end, like the Coen brothers, Christopher Nolan side of things, and the Japanese and the Miyazakis and the Mamoru Hosodas, and even to a lesser extent, Makoto Shinkai.
Yep.
Satoshi Kon is similar to that in that his style is so immediately recognizable. So it would be kind of a shame to see a diluted version of his movies. I would prefer to see him, as he intended it.
Right.
So in some ways, I would rather see Dreaming Machine out, just whatever they have done, and then read the screenplay for the rest of it.
I could dig it. There's a lot more to like animation than there is to sort of the writing and stuff like that we do. Um, that it's hard to really comprehend things like style. Like John C. Wright is held as a good imitator. Like he's been called on to imitate William Hope Hodgson and A.E. Van Vogt. For Van Vogt, I was never a big fan, so I can't really say whether or not it's a good mix of style. Especially since I didn't really want to read I'm trying to think to Van Vogt's work. Um, but it's uh, but his Nightland stuff is fairly strongly arguably better than what William Hope Hodgson himself attended, which we've discussed in previous streams. Uh, the whole
Yes.
the whole thing of the who's writing it matters absolutely stands. Somebody who writes fairly good horror and then writes something where the horror isn't some seaweed monster or being marooned in a strange and haunted sea, etc., is not the same as writing a spiritual horror. That John C. Wright is actually far more better equipped to write about. So someone who like Mamoru Hosoda, for some reason I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Um, even though I deeply enjoy his work, has a different style to um, um, Satoshi
Satoshi Kon.
Satoshi's Kon work, even though he does deal with technology in a lot of his work, as well as the modern application and so on and so forth. Um, it's not the same as Satoshi's Kon's kind of dreamy, um, everywhere feeling. I guess that's the best way to
Yes.
put it.
Mamoru Hosoda is interesting enough in itself. You know that there was actually he was actually a Ghibli director, which a lot of people compare his films to Ghibli, even though they do have their own style. But rightly so. There's similarities. He was originally a Ghibli director. He was actually the person who was directing Howl's Moving Castle,
Huh.
and that is so fascinating to me. Like, I would desperately love to see the Mamoru Hosoda cut of Howl's Moving Castle.
Right.
But apparently what happened is that Miyazaki like kept telling him no, 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 and then eventually he just shoved him aside and said, "You know what? I'll do it." And then they just fired him. And to my knowledge, he's never actually said anything negative about Miyazaki or about Ghibli,
Yeah.
but he was fired. He
Right.
was the original director of Howl's, and I love Howl's Moving Castle. Don't get me wrong. I think that the Miyazaki version of it. I've rewatched the movie several times. It's probably my go-to feel-good movie. If you just kind of want to cheer up because you're in a bad mood, Howl's Moving Castle is probably my go-to. But with that
Hmm.
said, a Mamoru Hosoda version of Howl's Moving Castle would be fascinating to watch.
Right. That,
I have a feeling it would probably be a lot more true to the book.
yeah, I could see that. Uh, yeah, I could see that. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like it's the story of Howl's Moving Castle was it is what it is. It's more it's more. I think he did Digimon too, like the first movie and stuff like that. Um,
Hosoda,
yeah,
yes, he did a One Piece movie as well.
really.
Yeah,
Which one did he do?
like it had a really long title, like the Baron no Mori
Oh,
Treasure or something.
yeah, yeah. That was so like people like get intimidated by the fact there's like 10 or so like One Piece movies. No, skip to Strong World because that has plot relevance. With some of Goldie Rogers' old companions. Uh, Z
Eye
is
Patch Wolf recommended the his movie as a good opening to One Piece.
the Baron Mori one.
Yeah,
Huh?
yes,
I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah, because he had a video on One Piece once upon a time. He recommended that.
Yeah.
If you're just getting into One Piece, start here type movie.
Huh. To me, I think Strong World hits that way better. Just because you get all the characters, you get the backstory, as well as Goldie Rogers gets some characterization that he doesn't really get in normal One Piece. And
Now, I am like 190 chapters into One Piece or something like that. One of those things that I was reading it steadily, then I forgot to read it for a couple days and I stopped for a long time, but for has nothing to do with the quality of the work. I just got distracted.
yep,
Uh, I intend to continue it. One Piece is such a weird duck in that everybody who insists that it gets better insists that it gets better like 400 chapters in or something.
you see, to me, it's by arc. Like the first three arcs, which take up like not very many chapters at all. Um, are just good adventure romps, and then there's the Arlong Park arc, and it's just a upward trend the entire time. Like not even like, I'm not even like, winking ironically or anything like that. No, just like when Arlong Park arc hits, the emotional heart comes out, all the themes start coming together. The crew looks like its true main form. Um, you know, all the intrigue starts paying off. Like it's not much of a payoff because Arlong, you know, is like just, the villain du jour, um, of the arc, but it's not, and it doesn't really have as much plot relevance later on, except in character motivation for Jinbei. Um, but it's, I don't know. It's just to me the turning point. A lot of people point to Town. Um, but to me, like like the stuff that everyone loves in One Piece was already there at Arlong Park. It doesn't help that even though there's an ending in sight, uh, now after who knows how many years, um, you know, it doesn't. How do I want to put it? Like the One Piece dream does start to come to an end at a certain point, and it becomes more weighty because it's called a romance. It's about the feeling and the waftiness of it all. The characters are larger than life. It's got this weight to it that, a lot of places like wish they could have, um, with some half as team bait that people like to put out every now and then, and it becomes the new hotness. It's like, you guys, yeah, like ReZero, so good. It's like, ha, you amateurs. I remember Code Geass and how bad that was, even though everyone demanded that it was good. And it was not good. It was never good. It was just there for edgy teens. Oh, well.
Oh, Code Geass isn't good?
It
I
isn't
don't
good.
know, and I've never actually seen Code Geass,
Like,
so I can't say. It's not, huh?
it's not. It's absolutely not. And it's not in a very frustrating way. So like it's got the sort of like element, and the action scenes are really well put together. But that's not the same as it being quality with like anything else. Like the politics are stupid. The dramatic, like end reveal, with, or not reveal, exciting thing that happens, like where this main character, known for her affection towards the conquered Japanese, um, uh, is like the dude literally makes a joke, and his special boy ability activates and causes her to go on a rampage to kill as many Japanese people as she can get her hands on, until he's eventually forced to kill her, or someone else kills her, or something stupid like that. Like it's if they intended for it to be, uh centered for edgy teens and their dramatic horseshit, it would be a piece of brilliance. But I don't know. Like, I don't know how genuine they were in it, or because like that's because like they keep producing more movies and they never break character. So like if it's a joke, it's gone on way too long. But if it's not a joke, it it like just makes me sit there and think, like, kind of blank expression. Like somebody somewhere is willing to stake their entire career on being the director or whatever for Code Geass, Akito, or whatever the guy's name was, where there's a whole bunch of like stupid stuff, um, for a bit, and then there's some really cool fight scenes, and then there's a whole bunch of other stupid stuff that I have people who insist that it's not actually stupid, It's actually really smart because the character can't do this, but she can do it like this. It's like, no, 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 shut up. You're wrong. Shut up. I will, like I'll eat your face. Like I'm irrationally angry about this. Um, except is it irrational? Like it's one of those things where I don't know if it's rational or irrational. Just like the writers don't know if the plot's rational or irrational. Like it's I hate it. Like I hate it to my very being. It's like, but the chess metaphors,
So
and
you were
it's
not a fan.
I wasn't. And it's like the chess metaphors are overdone. Do you understand? They're overdone. And it's like just like me holding them really close to my face. Chess metaphors.
Do you understand?
Do you understand? Chess metaphors don't impress me. I don't care how good it's used. But it shows how strategic he is. No, 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 no. No, no, no.
That's funny.
Anyway, like, there's a part of me that doesn't understand why my friends tolerate my existence, but there's another part of me that says they deserve the treatment I give them sometimes. So it balances out. Uh,
Sometimes.
sometimes,
All the time.
all the time. But
Whatever. One
like
or the other.
when they bring up things I hate, specifically, um, I am kind of a terrible friend, but to be fair, so are they. With like things like Code Geass and like political thrillers, like it doesn't really do it for me like something like Paprika does. Just because Paprika is more willing to embrace that sort of like natural needing absurdity. Like sometimes you do need that absurdity to sort of keep the plot flowing, because otherwise it's just seriousness all the time and everyone's being dramatic. There's no like, funny characters running around doing funny things, or there's no like, weirdness that needs to be there to balance out all the um strange events going around people's heads. Because it's like sometimes I'll watch a movie and it'll be a thriller, and like I'll like a Netflix show or something like that, and I'll just stop caring all of a sudden, because all the characters are too real, too something, um, that I honestly don't see how they aren't like parody, which is a weird thing to do, because like sometimes it's spot on their characterization, but other times it's just, you know who are these people, why are they being so dramatic about this, like these kids are returning to Italy, to their ancestral home, and there's a haunted tower, except like one of the kids is deaf, which I don't know why it bothered me, but it did. It's deafness seems like the disability you can have to say you have a disabled person for a checkbox, but not actually have them inconvenienced in any way whatsoever. Because they just have their their uh ear things in, so of course they can hear. But it's like, okay, so is there anything else to it though? Ah, no, dude. Not in a million years. So it just frustrates me. I'm a frustrated man, Anthony. Uh, yeah. So I stopped watching that show. It was like Huron or something like that. The drama between the various characters was dumb. Everything was like half spoken, so it was like you couldn't get any answers of it. Like they even made it like, why, we're leaving, and they was like, why are you leaving? And for like 15 minutes they wouldn't talk about why the mother was uprooting the children. And it turns out it's just an ex, and the X isn't even like magical or anything like that. It's an unmagical. He's not a vampire. He's not a ghost. He's not a secret wizard. TM. Uh, he. It's just this a hole. And she's running from him. And he wasn't even that vicious. Like he was slightly angry some of the time, but that was enough. Oh well.
I didn't know anything about Code except for the fact that it used to be very popular. So that amuses me.
Right. No,
Uh,
it's so like I can understand why you don't like Paprika. It doesn't diminish the quality of
oh, I
Paprika.
wouldn't say I don't like it. I did like Paprika.
Okay. Okay. Well, that it wasn't. You said
I
that.
did like it.
Yeah,
It wasn't a favorite of mine.
I get you. I can see why you can do it. You like why you feel that way. The style wasn't quite there. It was good. It was a masterpiece, but it wasn't catnip for you like it was for me. Is that accurate?
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So like part of why I think it does act like that and why it is just this great sort of piece is that it balances the absurd, the real, and the sort of the medium itself, animation, to create a superior work. That's sort of what I look to it for, where other pieces don't necessarily
Yeah.
have that balance.
But during the Italy. Oh, that's right.
My
What?
brother just walked in, so hi.
Hello.
Down that sounds Earthsea sucks. I watched it on HBO Max.
What sucks?
He did not. He said tell him that Tales from Earthsea sucks because he watched it and wrote a review of it. This is true.
Yeah, it's true. Uh,
Anyway, yeah, sorry. He literally like just got home from work, so he just showed up,
yeah.
and he says hi.
Okay.
Everyone, my brother says hi. He loves all of you. Merry
All right.
Christmas.
Yeah. Earthsea also has a similar problem, as it's got a very serious nature to it. But it doesn't actually like embrace its setting as much as I would like it to, especially towards the end of the 4 book series, where the character's old and tired, and like he must recover his spiritual nature or something like that, so that he can be present at the coronation of the young boy who turned into a king, um, that he was with for all of a book, which was basically them walking, um, to beat a dude who was messing with death. It was a lot of walking, um, as well as like going from place to place without much answer. The setting was cool, but the actual existence of it was definitely not. And I think it became more of a masterpiece because of the uniqueness of the vision more than the quality of it itself. Which uniqueness does count for a lot, especially if it's for something that's going to be a more mainstream concept later, like magical schools. While it wasn't like, I don't really view it as the first to be a magical school, just because like Conan the Barbarian has a magical school of dark wizards, and I don't know why everyone forgets that. Um, and while there isn't like Harry Potter-esque magical schools like they got in there, like it's a concept that's existed. Like covens of wizards teaching younger wizards has always existed. I don't, I don't, I don't understand, but um, it hits the spirit of the times just right, from what I can tell. And of course, the spirit of the times is boomers, but
Of
you get what you can
course it
take, I
is.
guess. You get what you can take.
The spirit of the times boomers should be on a t-shirt.
Right.
No, but yeah, Tales from Earthsea. The production history of Tales from Earthsea was pretty interesting. Ursula Le Guin apparently agreed to it because she was told that Elder Miyazaki would be making the movie, and she figured if anybody was going to do it, it should be him. But basically, in a fit of spite, Elder Miyazaki kind of let his son do it because he did not believe that his son was directing yet. He believed he was too inexperienced. He was right, by the way. But
Yeah.
the son, Goro wanted to direct. He and Toshio Suzuki was willing to offer him the opportunity. So Miyazaki threw his hands up and said, "Fine, take this movie. Go ahead, do it." And then when he saw the movie, he thought it was so bad he walked out in the middle of it, which is hardcore.
Right. Hey, Dad, I did it. And he just was like, I'm disappointed in you, son.
He gave him absolutely, on one hand, he was right because
Yeah.
he said this guy should not be directing a movie with Studio Freaking Ghibli because he's like an artist who's never directed anything before and has no experience, and he was correct.
Right.
But on the flip side of this was that his son was being given the opportunity to direct a film, and Miyazaki literally said, "Go ahead, I dare you. You think you could do it?" And then walked out when he
Who's your daddy?
figured it just wasn't good enough. Yeah,
Right.
and then just walked out on him.
Right. He
So
came. They've still got a relationship, but that's
they
pretty brutal.
reconciled. They
Yeah.
made From Up on Poppy Hill, which won the Japanese equivalent of the Academy Award and was written by Hayao and directed by Goro. So
Right.
they not only reconcile Goro, I think you could say if once he win the Academy Award or the Japanese equivalent, he would at least say that he redeemed himself. I don't think I saw all of From Up on Poppy Hill. It's one of the few Ghiblis that I haven't seen. From what I remember of it, it felt a lot like a bargain bin version of Whisper of the Heart, which was better, but it has a lot of fans.
Yeah.
And I've had people jump on me for saying that too. That I'm being unfair to the movie, and they're probably right.
Whispers of the Heart is an under
Oh,
it. How do I want to
it's a
put it?
great movie, Whisper of the Heart.
Yeah, but it's subtle. It's not very in your
Yes,
face about any of it. And I thought it was. I like it. It also introduces the Baron for
that
the
was
Cat Returns, which is my favorite.
yes,
One of my
that was
favorites.
Kondao. What was I can't remember his first name, but his name was the director was Kondao, and he died of an aneurysm after the movie was made.
Oh,
And the prevailing theory, though it might be unfair, is overwork, possibly caused by Miyazaki himself,
right.
who has extremely high standards. That strikes me as unfair.
I mean,
But
you don't come Miyazaki without him.
yeah, the flip side is Miyazaki himself has said something like he's never come out and admitted, yeah, I killed the man, but he has come out and said I'm really torn up by this, and I feel like I might have overworked him or whatever. So
Yeah.
there is some evidence there,
Right.
but he had an aneurysm. Like
Right.
it was just tragic. It was very tragic. It also really badly derailed Studio Ghibli since he was going to be their link to the future.
Yeah.
He was like Miyazaki's protege, and they've really never produced a director as good as him or as good as Takahata or any of them since.
Yeah.
The Mamoru Hosoda worked for them, but he wasn't Ghibli enough, which was honestly the Howl's Moving Castle kind of illustrates the problem that Ghibli had in a nutshell, doesn't it? You
Yeah.
have a very talented director, young, up and coming, has a vision in his own right, but Ghibli is, in the end, ultimately the studio of Hayao Miyazaki. And Hayao Miyazaki wanted Howl's Moving Castle to be a Miyazaki movie, so it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. But once Miyazaki dies, Studio Ghibli is going to die.
Yep.
Goro is probably not good enough.
Yep. Which is a tragedy. Like it's gonna be a tragedy of like of just kind of everything that yeah, Goro, sorry dude, you're not your dad.
Well, when Elder Miyazaki dies, I think you got to look at it in two ways. On one hand, of course, the death of anyone in this vale of tears is always tragedy to a certain extent,
Hmm.
and he's a great artist who, and we're never going to be able to see any more of his work again. But the flip side of that is Miyazaki will have had the extreme privilege to have been able to make exactly the movies that he wanted to make, with a budget for decades and decades on end. And we will
Yep.
have had I think in the end it'll be an 11 or a 12 movie, like 11 or 12 full length movies directed by him, plus shows like Future Boy Conan, plus movies that he's written. So we'll have gotten a body of work that most people dream of getting.
Yep.
So ultimately, it's kind of a triumph as well. He'll have died, but a life. He'll have a legacy worth looking back on in that sense.
Which is the goal for every author. It's a pity that Satoshi Kon died when he did, because a lot of
It
his
truly is.
was that
I said it truly is because
yeah.
his movies had apparently like a lot of influence, just the ones he got done.
Yep. Was he Tokyo Godfathers? I think so.
He was he
Yep.
was Tokyo Godfathers.
Yeah.
I came very close to seeing that in theaters actually because I saw that it was airing in theaters and I nearly saw it.
That's right.
Yeah. It's it was pretty funny. Like, I didn't really like it too much, but I thought it was very funny, very amusing sort of thing with the right balance of drama and character humor. Uh, that sort of played out just right. A bunch of homeless people like taking care of a kid. You just can't really. You can go wrong with it. You can really go wrong with it. But if you do it right, it's truly humorous all the way through. Um,
It's apparently considered like a beloved Christmas movie,
the Japanese equivalent of a Christmas
but
movie.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know nothing about that.
I don't know either. I've only seen it
Goro
like
actually
once.
does have a movie coming out this year, based on of all things, a Diana Wynne Jones book, who's the author of Howl's Moving Castle.
Huh.
So it's a CGI movie, and a lot of people have chimed in to say that the CGI looks extremely ugly, and I actually thought it looked pretty cool. It was something in the earwig. Let me just type that in: Goro Miyazaki earwig, and see what comes up. Earwig and the Witch, directed by Goro Miyazaki. Yep, and that is going to be upcoming, I think, in December. I think the CGI looks cool, but people don't seem to be optimistic. I think a lot of it too is just people disappointed that Studio Ghibli is using CGI at all. Everybody was kind of hoping
Yeah.
they would stick with 2D animation forever. It was never going to happen
Right.
if
I
they were going to survive anyway.
Yeah. I'm looking through it. It actually matches the stuff pretty well, and it's fairly, I guess I'll say, Ghibli. But
I like it. I think it looks kind of cool.
I don't know. Like, it seems kind of like the lighting's different. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yes.
Like, okay, good. Um, like a lot of stuff that I watch. Like, part of the problem with CGI compared to the rest of it, uh, other animation techniques, is that oftentimes the lighting is absolute garbage. Um, and I don't know how you can correct for that, because it's like, because like for like something like Blame, with its darker lighting, which a lot of CGI shares, works for it. But for other things that I've seen, like that are, I guess we'll say, happier, I guess, it doesn't really work. Even for Satomu Nihei's other works like Knights of Sidonia, sometimes it just doesn't work. Um, and it's really disappointing, because I don't know how you can correct it when, like, it's like, well, the lighting needs to be this way, right? But it's, like, I guess maybe lighting's just difficult or something. I don't know. Like, it's hard, because I can look at it and go, there. That's the problem. The lighting is too dark for a lot of this stuff, and so the details that you need to put in there are hidden. Assuming you put the details in it at all, which you should have. I mean, you put the details in, right? You didn't just save money and do a lazy job, right? You didn't do that. I'm sure you didn't do a lazy job. The that guy probably went on a little bit too long, but
Ghibli, yeah.
yeah,
It's interesting that they're even coming out with a movie this year.
it was
I'm
Miyazaki's
trying to
Christmas
figure out
gift
when it's
to his
coming out.
son. All right,
I
Dad, I
think
can do
it's
it
coming
this
out
time.
in December.
I don't know. This is the first I've heard of it, but I don't really follow news all that much.
When I type in Earwig and the Witch release date, it gives me the release date of the book, which is not helpful.
Right.
Uh,
Does it have a TV show
Earwig and the Witch.
page? You can always trust TV
Oh,
tropes.
it says 8th July 2020. Now I want to read reviews.
The only thing I want to know, did the elder Miyazaki walk out of this one too? That's it.
I
That's
think
all I
they have
care
a good
about.
relationship at this point. I really want to know what the reviews were.
Did it even
I'm very
release in this
curious.
age of COVID?
I thought it was like put out on Netflix, but it's not going to be released in the West until 2021. But
As always, Netflix is the worst possible future.
Netflix is truly horrendous. Their handling of anime is the worst.
Almost as bad as
No
their
results
handling.
found on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. So I guess it got delayed or
Fantastic.
something. Yeah. Its handling of anime is almost as bad as its handling of pedophiles. There we go. That's a hot take. That's a memeable take. Almost.
But not quite. Okay. Hold on. Let me try IMDb and see if it has anything.
Actually, I'm thinking.
There's gotta be some way to find. What the hell did people think of this movie? I'm curious. I'm legitimately curious because it matters as to the future of Studio Ghibli too.
Right.
So, like, I want to know: is he actually putting out good movies or what?
Is he at least mediocre enough so that someone could take over after later? Like, are there any young directors that we could call auteurs? Because like most of the directors that
Yes, how young is young?
Young for the industry. So like there's
Makoto Shinkai.
besides Shinkai. Like I don't like Shinkai. I like he's there, but like besides your name, like nobody watches that one about the foot fetishes and that older woman. All right, and the shoemaker.
That
I
was
should call
actually
him.
a pretty good movie.
I don't
Gonna
like that
throw that
movie.
out there.
Like it was
That
like
was a
I
pretty
kept
good
falling
movie.
asleep through it. Like they were talking about things, and
They were, yes.
there was no action.
It also has the most overdramatic English dub I've ever seen. but that makes it glorious. So
Eh.
the final scene where they're like yelling at each other in the rain is actually kind of loops around to being hilarious, even though there's nothing wrong with the scene itself, to be honest.
Right.
It's a perfectly passable scene,
One of
but
I'm exaggerating about Makoto
it's
Shinkai.
also hilarious.
Yeah. Like
No, I
his
would call him. Look, I agree with Digibro had his long video on one of his best videos called Makoto Shinkai, a genius hack filmmaker. I agree with his conclusion in the video, which is that I would not call Makoto Shinkai a great filmmaker yet, but I would say that he could be on his way.
Yeah. I mean,
And Your Name had a vision.
yep.
That which is what makes him worth watching. He has his own. He definitely does have his own vision.
I don't know how aware you've been of him and his work, but like he came out when I was in high school. So like it was what all the little high school kids was kind of talking about in the anime club, with the first third of 3 centimeters per second, which I am going to posit.
5 centimeters per second was one of the worst movies I've sat through in full. I don't even know why I did.
So the first third is actually amazing.
It's horrendous.
It is amazing. The first third
It's
specifically.
it's an awful movie.
The second,
I fell asleep almost. I came like very close to falling asleep during 5 centimeters per second.
listen, man, if you feel the urge to fall asleep in a movie, just fall asleep. You know, just flex on it. Flex on it casually. Just fall asleep, bro. But
Snore very loudly, intentionally,
you
just just to just to flex.
right,
Let everybody know I hated this movie.
right.
I
It's
did. It was bad. I did not like 5 centimeters per second.
I like the first third, but the second and third thirds just ticked me off, just because of the melodrama. Uh, um,
The
from
fifth
voices,
movie, Garden of Words, I actually found quite good.
right? Uh, yeah, 5 centimeters. No, not 5 centimeters. Voices from a Distant Star though is like his first real piece that mattered. And I thought that was absolutely amazing.
Right.
Uh, but
That
be
was the one Digibro was kind of going into, where he said, "Look, it's easy to see why it became big because the central premise is a great idea, but there's also like tons of plot holes and whatever." It's
there's
like,
only
well,
one plot hole. There's only one plot hole with that thing.
it's a
That
bad
she got
one, though,
service
isn't
on an alien planet. That's it. That's the only plot hole. That she had like AT&T
it?
on like
I
Sirius or
forget.
something. What?
I really do recommend that video if you haven't seen it, and I think you have.
I
But
have. Of course I have. It's
yeah,
like I'm a big fan of
it's one
Digibro
of his
the
best
Analyst.
videos. Yeah, it's one of his best videos. I haven't seen Voices from a Distant Star, but his review made it sound like it would be something that I would find okay and then forget about quickly.
I guess.
I did not. He loved 5 centimeters. Weirdly, he loved 5 centimeters per second. Like he said that 5 centimeters per second was a classic, and he gave a lot of credit to that to the third section of it. And I couldn't stand it. His review of Your Name is pretty spot on.
Yeah. Like it,
Although I do think that he's a little bit unfair, but not badly unfair.
I think the more Makoto Shinkai slows down his melodrama, the better he gets. Uh, like it's like people can go on like, oh well, like you never, you don't necessarily get your girl you get in high school or whatever, or some other BS, or like people separate and fall apart. It's like, okay, but I don't go to the movies for that. I go to the movies so that someone can confess their love while a comet streams at them, about to destroy an entire prefecture of Japan or
You
some
know,
nonsense.
the final scene of Your Name is one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever because of the amount of tension that he packs into like two people just kind of walking by each other by a train.
Right.
Uh, it really was like at the time I was like on the edge of, you know, as everybody who watches it says, I think, like, but I was on the edge of my seat, you know. I like collapsed forward at the by the time the movie ended
Yeah.
because I
It
was so emotionally invested in that final interaction.
right.
So it worked.
Like it's like when that
You know,
yeah.
Digibro said it though, and he's right. The plot like completely falls apart as soon as you think about it. But I think Your Name is a really strange movie in some ways because the flip side of that is I feel like he knew that the plot would fall apart. So he designed the movie in such a way as to use sleight of hand to distract you from that. And he's remarkably good at it. But the question is, does this make the movie better or worse? Like those those plot holes are all there, but it was clearly, you know, clever directing. That was the reason that I didn't notice them.
Right. I'm
So, what
I'm
does
of a
that mean?
I'm of a piratical mindset. Take what you can and give nothing back, and the more an author can do it, the more I appreciate them, we'll say. However, I just, you still got to have an element of what I want in my entertainment there for me to really give you credit for it. Um, let's see. Besides Shinkai, is there any like who I blank
How
out?
old is the soda?
I don't know. Like you see, I the problem is with Shinkai, I dig it because he sort of came out when I was in high school. But with Hosoda, he was around when I was a kid, and he was doing the Digimon thing, which was
Okay.
incredibly like
He is
important to me.
52.
Yeah, like I don't count that. Like if you're over 40, we'll say, uh, you're
Makoto Shinkai might lose that.
is he over 40?
I think he is.
Really? I didn't think so. Like I felt he was in his late
Yep.
30s.
No, he's
Huh.
47. He was born in 73.
No.
He started late. He had a really weird rise in the industry where like he made his little short thing and then some random studio said we need a director, this guy's popular, want to make a feature-length film, and
Yeah,
he just
baby.
kind of said okay.
Right.
Miyazaki, like when you contrast it with Miyazaki, like Miyazaki had an almost traditional rise through the industry where, you
Right.
know, he started out as an animator on a show, then he got more responsibilities, then he got his own show, you know, slowly moving up in the world. Makoto Shinkai was just kind of handed the keys to a Cadillac after, you know, making his own car.
Right. He's too young to call a boomer too, and
Like
that makes me sad.
you know, like he made a freaking he made a freaking beetle, you know, out of machine parts, and then they gave him the keys to a high-end Cadillac. All right, this
Fantastic.
is completely random. I have Rotten Tomatoes up in the background, and I
Hmm.
just find this really funny because I was looking up other things and I saw their most popular streaming movies. One of them's this movie called House of Hummingbird. Don't know anything about it. Don't care.
Haven't
Uh,
even heard about it
but
before.
it was 100. It was 100%. So I said, "Oh man," you know. I clicked on it, and it's got a 59% rotten audience score.
Oh no. Oh
Chico,
no.
what the hell is this? And now I'm a lot more curious, to be honest.
Right. Like, and
What
it's
what type of train wreck is this?
right when randomly homosexual character comes out to parents and discovers a magical yet strangely pedophilic leprechaun in their closet. They'll embark on something something love something something spirit that can never be broken something something. Why does the leprechaun look like Harvey Weinstein? Don't worry about it. There we
I
go.
should watch Weathering with you one day,
Yeah.
which is Makoto Shinkai's newest film, which Digibro said was his best film.
I mean, the guy can only go up. But I'm mean.
I don't know. You could go a lot of ways from, you could go way down from Your Name. Your Name was pretty good.
Yeah, it's true.
You could go way down from Your Name.
One of the things that bothered me with Your Name is that people were like, yeah, it's life affirming. What do you mean life affirming? Like, and it was funny too because I kind of choked up on the ending there.
Because it's a happy ending. That's why.
Yeah, but
It's a
why
happy ending.
why life affirming? Why that specific term? Why what sort of life do you live that a time travel romance, which, you know, is a time
I could
travel
actually
romance?
answer that question.
Yeah.
It's the fact that Makoto Shinkai writes doomed romances, and that was his thing.
Yes.
And in Your Name, he supposedly wrote a doomed romance, but he decided not to doom it. And that made people smile.
Aw.
That's it. That's pretty much me. After that I watched Garden of Words, the Foot movie.
Yes.
And I
Damn
quite
it.
liked it. I didn't think it was, a masterpiece or anything, but I enjoyed it. It does look like it was ludicrously beautiful. The backgrounds in Garden of Words are like almost too good looking to the point where they almost distract you from the rest of the film. They're so good looking. Uh, I hated 5 centimeters per second, and I've never seen anything else by him.
I like the first third.
But yeah,
Read.
as far as modern auteurs go, like animators can work till they're pretty old, so both Mamoru Hosoda and Makoto Shinkai at least have long careers left.
Wow. So like, yeah, that's true. Earwig and the Witch doesn't even have a TV tropes page.
I'm very confused over Earwig and the Witch.
Yeah.
Something seems wrong to me, but I don't see. Supposedly it came out like in June, but what's going on here?
Yep.
There should be something else on this. I think it might have been released at a film festival, and that's why there's nothing. But even then, you would think
No,
critics would
it's
talk
made
about
for
it.
TV movie.
It's even hard for me to find the air date, though.
Right.
Now I'm reading. I read it was going to be in June, but now I'm reading an article that says set to be released later this year, dating from July 31st.
Dirty Pair Project Eden is life affirming. Alright, I'll look this up. Isn't Dirty Pair those hot chicks with guns? Which I appreciate. Yes.
To be I'm legitimately curious about Earwig and the Witch. Unlike, like I said, unlike some people who I've seen in forums and things, I
Yep.
think the animation style actually looks kind of cool. So, it looks different.
Yeah. I couldn't.
So I'm curious.
Yeah. I just saw a few still images, so I don't know. I can't really say.
That's all I've seen.
Oh,
But I
okay.
like the visuals.
Yep.
It looks interesting to me. But
Yep.
yeah, I can't even find a release date. That's so weird. Like, this is a Studio Ghibli movie. You'd think it would be all over, wouldn't you?
Right.
Something's up with this film. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they're what the idea behind it is. Okay, it was set to premiere at the 2020 Cannes Film Festival, which was set to take place in May, but it was canceled. Instead, it's going to air in December. Now, that's interesting because that means that this movie has been available, has been finished for months,
Maybe.
which is strange. And it's only 82 minutes long, so it's a very short movie.
Right.
I
Made for
wonder if
TV.
it's going to be something like The Cat Returns, sort of a B-level Ghibli.
I dig it.
Now, Hayao's new movie, How Do You Live, which is literally based on a communist novel, by the way.
No.
Actually, I'm extremely curious about this.
Yep.
I want to know what he's going to do with that. It's also a fantasy adventure, which shocked me because I remember reading after Princess Mononoke, he basically said that the reason he made Mononoke and movies like that were going to be hard to make, and now he's making another fantasy adventure movie at the ripe old age of almost 90.
Yeah,
Which
but
is
you
kind of
know,
nuts.
right? But I think the old man can take at least one more. I'm just trying to think because I'm looking through. Yeah, 1973. I'm looking through the various things I can find here. Just looking for a way I can tell who there's names to know in anime. There we go. That's something. I'm just sort of looking for a way I could tell when people have come into the scene. Because otherwise, how can we tell who's coming up, who's going to be important later?
Right.
But there's no way for me to tell. And honestly, besides Makoto Shinkai, who's very old for what I'm talking about, to do it. So let's look at names to know for film, just film. There's Rintaro, Miyazaki, Takahata, Otomo, Shinkai.
Takahata's dead.
Dead. I mean, okay.
He died.
Okay. Well, all right. He's fine. He's died. Oshii, Kawajiri, and Hisoda, ignoring some dead people. I assume Rintaro's dead too. Uh, just putting it out there. So those are directors for films. That's what they're known for. I don't think any of them are really new or young people. Um, which bothers me because it's something I'm looking for. Superversives are by and large new-ish. There's John C. Wright and a few others who have been kicking around since the early aughts. But for myself, I didn't publish a book until within the last. I published Sheik of Mars through Superversive Press 3 years ago. Uh, 3 years ago. Oh man. Don't think about it, Ben.
Yeah, wow.
Don't think about it.
Wow.
Right?
That's
What?
wow.
What? Don't mess with me, man.
Now that you've said that out loud.
Right? Sort of looking through, I'm looking through these names and I'm just looking for something that isn't someone who's just been around for a while. A lot of the Scalzi's been around. Speaking of science fiction writers, Scalzi and a few others have been around since the 90s. I want to say. I couldn't really say too much, but I want to say the 90s. A lot of the authors who are, we're going to say, new pub, rather than, old pub. They serve old pub, who have shown up recently, are often too terrible to really give more than the time of day for. There's an Asian rising in science fiction that has gotten some importance, especially with the win of the three body problem, which is probably the only Hugo win that has mattered in a very long time. Um, and they immediately
Yeah, I
ruined
would
it
say
the next
so.
set. Yeah, like it's
The
like
Three Body Problem was a very okay book.
yeah.
It was one of the most okay of the okay books I've ever okayed.
uh,
But it was
uh,
definitely fine. I'll give it
right.
that.
Oh yeah, this was
I liked seeing.
it had a good
I didn't read the sequels though.
that's fair. It had a pretty good cover. That was actually a pretty good cover. Like a
I
lot of
like the scene where they made a living computer.
JD Cohen says that Dirty Pair Project Eden is life affirming. CVWX says, yeah, Paprika. Oh man, it's been like an
You
hour since
came
we
in
last
late, my
mentioned it.
friend.
We've meandered away off into the distance, here and there, near and far. Uh, Voices of a Distant Star.
I
There
mean,
we go.
honestly, I think this has been a fairly productive discussion,
Right.
in terms of I think that the contents have been interesting enough, but we did meander off Paprika a while ago because we discussed it.
Right.
So sorry, but you're kind of late.
We love you anyway. And honestly, we
Yes,
both agree that it's a pretty good movie. A solid
yes.
for me, it's a solid 10 out of 10 masterwork. Mwah. Solar Peace.
I've mentioned to Ben, if you want me to give like a rating, I don't really do number ratings because I notice that messes up when I try and rank one movie a B, and then another movie I would have to give a C because it's technically not as good, even though I clearly think it's above average. So I started putting movies into tiers instead. Paprika is an A tier movie. How about
Uh,
that? I would put it. It is in, which is my second highest tier. It's below the S tier. However, I will note that a lot of things that I put in my A tier as opposed to my S tier is come to personal preferences and things like that. Whether
right.
they resonate with me particularly often makes a difference. If you're in the A tier, you're very, very good.
So to me,
Paprika was not a movie that
mhm.
resonated with me specifically, but I could recognize the quality.
Oh yeah, and it it was it. I can see the problems that people can have with it. I just don't agree with them. And so
I don't
my
really have any problems particularly. It was just that there was nothing, like the movie just didn't fit my sensibility, my sensibilities, I guess. Satoshi Kon generally doesn't, much like Takahata actually. I'm really not a fan of Isao Takahata's films. I've watched The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. I have watched Only Yesterday. I've watched My Neighbors the Yamadas. And of those three, I really, really disliked Only Yesterday and Kaguya. And I thought My Neighbors the Yamadas was okay. But at the same time, I can recognize the artistry inherent in films like Takahata's. So I can't discount him completely. I feel like that with Satoshi Kon, though not as strongly. Uh, I definitely don't feel as strongly about Paprika as I did about the unbelievably boring Only Yesterday and the boring and very anti-male Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Paprika just happened to be a movie that didn't have a lot of the things that, excite me particularly. I've been very open about the fact that I'm a sucker for shonen action stories, and Paprika is not that. Yeah, so, eh, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. There's not. There's nothing at all wrong with it. In fact, it's very, very good.
you see, my thing is based on entirely personal feeling, and is therefore the chat opinion. but we'll let that lie, I guess. Um,
If it were entirely personal feeling, I don't know. I just don't feel that strongly about it. It's not even like I didn't even come out of the movie like it. I came out of the movie going, yeah, that was pretty good. I guess it was confusing though, but it was pretty good.
right. I am pretty concerned that I can't I'm looking through TV tropes and a few different things, and I can't seem to find many people, except for Ginnarubuchi and Makoto Shinkai, who really broke out uh, relatively recently. That is high school and beyond. So let's say 2000s and beyond, because almost everything I'm seeing here, either they haven't done much um, since that specific time, or they just kind of fell off. Like Urabuchi, like what is he even doing? Is he still doing that weird Chinese thing? Uh, Psychopaths. He did Psychopaths in 2015, which I believe was the movie.
The bad one.
Maybe. I know that the seasons were pretty bad.
They had a weird thing, Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, where the original series is considered it kind of gained a reputation later, actually, but of this masterpiece. Yeah.
Yeah.
They came out with a sequel series, and here was the weird thing to me about the sequel series. It got awful reviews. Doesn't seem to be liked by viewers much either.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it, but the strange thing about it to me is that it's made by the same team, which
Right.
really makes you question how did that happen?
So here's another thing that I didn't even hear about this at all. But basically, he did a YouTube original series. Oh wait, that explains why I didn't hear about it. Where it's like humanity's been invaded by aliens, and basically there's mecha fighting them. Long story short, but it's like there's been no hype for this. This is Urabuchi and no hype. He stopped doing Thunderbolt Fantasy. No, he's still doing Thunderbolt Fantasy, which is Taiwanese, I should say, rather than Chinese. He did the Godzilla Planet of the Monsters script. He's just been doing script writing ever since, for a while, actually. What is up with this guy? Did he insult somebody by taking a Taiwanese show, which, as everyone knows, is better China? Huh. This is weird. I know this sounds weird that we're so the progression of the logic of the conversation has been from Paprika to Satoshi Kon himself to Miyazaki as kind of the ideal situation, including the child abuse that he puts on his son. And I'm
It's
joking because
necessary
it's
for good art
necessary. It's
to
necessary.
abuse your family.
You're absolutely right. I unironically agree with you. I wouldn't be the same man as I
If you're
was.
going to be a great artist, your family must hate you.
Yeah, just a little bit. Psychopath season 1, by the way, was a masterpiece, and I'm just not gonna do it. It's not my favorite thing, but the way it all balances out is absolutely fantastic. The mid-season climax and the ending climax was
I've
absolutely amazing.
watched. I think I watched 2 episodes of Psychopaths, and it was one of those shows. It was quite good, and I was planning on continuing it, and then I got distracted and forgot about it.
Anything past season 1 is not worth watching.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
I've heard season 2 was absolute garbage.
I didn't even finish the first episode. I just went boop. Um, I am worried because there doesn't seem to be a lot of talent that's up and coming that anyone's talking about. There's some people who like show up and they do these amazing Sakuga pieces, but to me, Sakuga is kind of like frosting on a cake. Yes, it looks amazing. However, Sakuga and frosting is worthless if the cake itself is terrible. Um, let's see here. Let's see. What does JD Cohen says? Mamoru Ochi isn't doing much anime anymore. Yep. CVWX, fair enough. First episode of Psychopaths, I hard noped. I dig it. I can see how you could do that because they started like in the middle of it and then like went backwards.
Well, they
which
start out with a fairly graphic rape scene in episode 1.
it wasn't a rape scene. Didn't even get to that
Yeah, it
much.
was.
I thought she was just trauma.
100% it was.
Oh, well, never mind then. Shows what I know.
I remember the scene because I'm surprised this is here.
Right.
I'm like, not that surprised because it seemed like a dark show, but okay then. But yeah, she comes up on she catches a guy in the act of raping a woman, and then the woman who is in her underwear for the rest of the episode, like her, whatever stress levels or something spike enough that she's considered a danger and she could kill her, but the main character manages to talk her down. But one of the other people wants to kill her anyway, and she shoots the other cop instead, so that he doesn't hurt her. And I think that kicks my understanding, because I didn't watch the whole thing, is that kicked off the plot because she realized she was able to change her mental state like mid conversation, which meant that there was a flaw in the system.
Yep.
Yeah, so that kicks off the story. But yeah, she was being raped in that scene. Like she was actively being raped. That was a rape scene.
Huh. Well,
Like, fairly graphic one.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't take it as that. All right. Like I figured, like don't get me wrong, in a vacuum, yes, it would have been a rape scene, but like I didn't think it got as far as that. Anyway, well, all right. Shows that I was paying attention 5 years ago or whatever.
Well, I know what you mean. You might have thought that she ran in and stopped him right before he started, but I don't think she did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like, I think it was after he started.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong and I'm remembering it wrong, but I don't think so.
Right.
Now I'm curious.
Right.
Psychopaths, meanwhile, by the way, had a for a show that's really not that old, had a huge legacy. Like, it had a lot of influence on a lot of people, which is interesting. Season 1 only. Nobody cares about the rest of it. They all just kind of ignore it.
What is this? Like I'm just looking through famous names, and there's characters who have worked masterpieces. Like Naoki Urasawa has supposedly made a new set called Asadora. Is that right? Yeah, Asadora. And he was the guy, one of the two guys behind Pluto and Monster and 20th Century Boys, which are all three absolute musts to just like you just got to read them sometime. Like Monster, 20th Century Boys, and Pluto, absolute 10 out of 10s. But like he's working on something else, and honestly, like I haven't like except for Muji Rushi, which is in collaboration with a Louvre art museum, like which was all right. Like it just didn't seem to finish, which was weird. Like he doesn't seem to be doing anything. What's with these people and not doing things? Like, even though I haven't
Uh,
produced another novel, I've still got short stories all over the place. Like, what's up with this stuff?
I'm looking up Kenji Nagasaki. I'm looking up Kenji Nagasaki right now. Kenji Nagasaki, you probably haven't heard of, but he is like the director in chief of My Hero Academia. And the reason I'm looking him up is because he's one of those guys who is more talented than you realize. And this is what I mean. From my understanding of season 4 of My Hero Academia comparatively was kind of a mess compared to the other seasons, right?
Which arcs
It,
did that come through?
the latest season, the most recent.
Okay.
So it was Overhaul and Sport and Endeavor, the Endeavor high end fight, and the
Gentle
Culture
Criminal.
Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of a mess. It had its with isolated moments of brilliance kind of shining in the middle of it. But compared to like previous seasons, it was kind of disappointing. Now, Kenji Nagasaki, this is the reason I'm looking him up. Apparently, the story went like this. He was like the head episode director of My Hero Academia for the first, 3 seasons, I think, at least for like the last couple of seasons. Then when season 4 came out, he was quote unquote promoted. This is something that happens all the time. But by promoted, he became like director in chief of the show, meaning he was no longer like supervising individual episodes mostly. And this is probably one of the things that caused the downgrade in the quality of the episodes. One thing that you learn pretty quickly when you research animation is that high quality animation actually doesn't have nearly as much to do with budget as you think. For example, One Punch Man is the case study for this. Like season 1 of One Punch Man has some of the great action direction and animation ever, in the history of anime. And its budget is like well within industry norms for seasonal anime. In fact, season 2 of One Punch Man, which is famously not very good,
Not as good.
is actually it's actually has a higher budget than season 1 because it went over time. Like they had issues directing the show, went over time, so it went over budget. So it actually has a higher budget than season 1. That's because the real drivers of quality animation are the animators.
Yep.
Yeah, which sounds it's almost sounds kind of like you're cheating when you say something like that, because well, duh. But it's really true. Like it's way more important than budget.
Yep.
Is the actual quality of the animation team on your show. This is, by the way, why A1 Picture shows vary so wildly in quality. Because they like basically import a new team for every show and pay them pennies on the dollar. So whether or not the show is good depends on the specific passion of that creative team. But whatever.
Yep. And
anyway,
that makes
so
them trash mostly.
My Hero Academia, mostly, not always. There are exceptions. Silver
Sure.
Spoon, I think
Erased.
Kaguya-sama came out quite well. Yeah, Erased at the very least is considered. I haven't seen it, but I know that it's considered to be directed very well.
That's actually.
But that's almost like a
good.
coincidence.
Right.
That's like, why. What's his name? Crap, Digibro, who criticizes A1 Pictures, he's right to do so, because the reason that A1 Pictures comes out with those cookie cutter light novel adaptations is because they don't really give a shit. They'll just hire whoever, have them pay them pennies on the dollar to do their adaptation that they can guarantee will be a hit, and they don't need to put any effort into it whatsoever.
Yeah, pretty much.
But when they do happen to hire, a team that's passionate about the source material, which I think is what happened with, like, I have no proof of this, but I think is what happened with, like, Silver Spoon. Yeah. And probably Kaguya-sama as well, which has enough style to it that it makes me think that the people who were in charge of the show were probably fans of the source material to some extent.
Honestly, the stuff I'm seeing with what you're talking about, like, its quality seems to be directly connected to, like, how difficult it is. So, like, One Punch Man is
Yes and no.
difficult. Erased was relatively easy if you compare it. Asterisk War was difficult, but also a light novel and so trash. Aldenoa Zero was difficult and dramatic, but kind of trash. What is this?
Like My Hero Academia, though, where I got off topic there, what I was getting at is that if, people who are fans of the show, like you and me, will remember season 2 of My Hero Academia was incredibly consistent from start to finish, had
Yes.
several standout action set pieces, and was extremely well directed. The first half of season 3 of My Hero Academia, if anything, was the pinnacle of the entire show. It featured what is, at this point, I would say, like one of the legendary fights in anime history. Probably like the defining moment for that generation of anime fans. The All Might versus All for One fight. And then the second half of it kind of fell off, which was partially because that arc was pretty weak, especially comparatively, but also partially because I don't think they cared as much. Because when they did have to do another fight, they did the Deku versus Bakugo fight, and it was very good.
Yep.
Season 4 was when they pushed this guy up a level. So now he's no longer really directing it. He's just looking at the other stuff other people did and signing his name off on it.
Yep.
But the notable thing here is that they actually did, I think, get him. I don't know if it was him or if it was just one of the original directors, one of like the early season directors, to come back for the final 2 episodes, the final episode specifically, which was the Endeavor versus High End fight. And the Endeavor versus High End fight is easily the best moment of season 4. And admittedly, with all of my criticisms of season 4 aside, probably one of the best moments of the entire show. And that isn't because they just upped their budget or whatever. It's because I remember when it came out, because I was following along, like a lot of the fans who were even season 4 said, guys, we should be getting hyped for this, because they've gotten they basically got the band back together for this final episode.
Mm-hmm.
They got all of the people who had worked on the show previously together to work on the Endeavor versus High End fight. And it gives me some hope that maybe the reason that season 4 was so insistent was that they had a lot of the big names working on the admittedly excellent movie. And I'm kind of hoping that next year, now that they're not making another movie this year, they could have that team working on what should be a very exciting season 5, where we would get we can get the My Villain Academia arc animated well. But
Please.
whatever. The point.
Ooh. Please.
That would be fun. The point being, number one, that there's some hope that season 5 could be a step up from season 4, which would be welcome to see, because I was kind of I wasn't totally. I wasn't One Punch Man season 2 blue balled or anything, but I was kind of disappointed with season 4.
Mm-hmm.
I had higher expectations and they weren't quite met.
Yeah.
So there's some hope that next year could be a little bit better. But more than that, it shows that with a lot of shows that we're fans of, like, the individual talent of each episode is more important than you might realize or think at first glance.
J.D. Cohen does put up a good point here. I think MHA had problems because the movies were in
Yes.
production during season 3 and 4, splitting focus. Even Horikoshi's manga chapters got shorter. They did actually. And you're right. Like what we're talking, like I'm gonna sort of start winding us down because I'm actually super tired and hungry. Uh,
I just noticed that we've been going for a while. It's a
yeah,
good sign, but
about 2 hours.
it is a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so to summarize what we've been talking about this entire sort of oh my goodness, this live stream is we've been talking about a specific auteur who died sadly in 2010, Satoshi Kon. His last completed work, that specific completed work, was Paprika, which is a story about dreams and characters who move through the dreams of others to fix their problems as well as their own. A classic and unbreakable tale, as long as you aren't trash. We then move to Hayao Miyazaki, probably the king of anime auteurs. I do not think there is a single person who will dethrone him in our lifetimes. And if there is somebody like that, I do not believe they are working today. Or at least they haven't become important yet. I do believe that we're going to come on to a crisis of talent, which is basically there won't be anyone to keep up the torches. Even though I'm not asking there to be a specific lineage that manga has, um, like through Dragon Ball Z and so on and so forth, where the big three came out of Dragon Ball Z, and they themselves spawned quite a few different pieces. Maybe not as good as the big three. Um, but still, important works of art in their own right. And this dearth of talent that's coming up, because there always is a bright and shining star where people have passed. Like I know it sounds strange, but it's like how do I want to put it? Like once you come across this person's work, you just know. Like you get that feeling. Like when I first saw Makoto Shinkai, Voices from a Distant Star, I knew that this guy was going places. Uh, doesn't mean I liked where he went, because I don't. But he's getting better. Okay, all right. But it's like when I read certain people's work. When I read David Halquist's work, when I read your first anthology, I was like, yeah, these people are the type of people I want to be around. And I don't really get that feeling with what anime is producing right now. No matter what we're making, what we're seeing with a bunch of these pieces, like even it seems like the old masters are kind of starting to fall into the background. Like I'm looking up like Naoki Urasawa's work, and I'm reading Asadora. Yep, that's the art style he's doing, but it's not really something that I can um, really. I'm just trying to think. It's not something that I can really say is going to hold my attention for long. I'm reading it because it's Naoki Urasawa, not because it's probably worth reading. Um, it's just why though? Like what's going on here that like is like it seems like it's like I don't know, like it's just kind of going into famine or something like that. I'm not sure. Hmm. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about this feeling I'm getting a little bit longer before I can properly talk about it. Hmm. Anyway, what's your final thinking about? No, like it's serious. Like it feels like there isn't anything to look forward to that isn't part of a series already. You know what I mean? Like, sure, we can look forward to My Villain Academia because that's gonna be awesome. As long
That will
as
be lit. Yeah.
yes, that as long as they don't mess it up. But there's also how do I want to
And
put it?
whenever this current arc is animated, because it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's just better and better and better. I still haven't seen this week's episodes though, which I need to correct. But I took a nap,
And you should, because it's great.
right? Like there's Chainsaw Man coming up eventually. Like eventually, there's going to be a Chainsaw Man anime, and that's going to be amazing. The next season of Doctor Stone's going to be all right. I'm just looking through here, but I hope they do a Hell's Paradise Jigo Kuraku series, which is going to be great.
What's the there was some show coming up next season that was interesting. It was an adaptation of a big Shonen Jump.
My anime list.
I can't remember what it was. And it had a Japanese name that I can't. That's going to be terrible for me to remember, so that's not helpful.
Right.
Let's look at winter 2020
Isn't
anime.
it fall 2020?
Or fall, you're right, I'm sorry. Fall.
I mean, Golden
Winter
Kamui
starting.
is going to be pretty good. I don't know if you're watching that, but I've been enjoying that.
No. Was that the one with the horrible CGI bear by any chance?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. Oh, the Demon Slayer movie's gonna come out.
Ooh, that actually does. I'm actually looking forward to that.
That's gonna be great. Alright, so they still have Log Horizon as coming out in the fall, which is wrong on this list.
Yeah.
That's actually coming out in the winter. But, so I don't know how many of these are current that I'm looking up. Hey, Girl and Dinosaur. Or Gal and Dinosaur, I mean, I'm sorry.
Tokyo
Maybe they're...
Revengers.
Oh man, I really, I'm completely blanking on the title and premise. And all I remember is a vague, oh, that looked cool. And now I can't find it. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts.
Our Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you, JD Co. Jujutsu Kaisen. That was it. That looked cool.
I'm okay. I saw some stuff with it, and I kind of want to see how it is. I didn't read it.
It looks
actually.
like
I don't think I
exactly
read
the
it.
sort of edgy thing that would have been at home in the 90s.
Yep.
Yeah, capital, all caps, edge, hyphen, all caps, E. Except normally that stuff is really bad, but in the 90s to do some shows like that were pretty good. I'm hoping this is going to be like one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Darwin's Game was capital E, edgy,
right.
and it was terrible.
Just sort of looking through this. Honestly, fall season looks weak.
This year is a year though that it's hard for me to judge.
Well, it feels like it's weak compared to even like a mediocre year. Like
Even this season.
yeah, even this like this season's weak, but it's not its fault. I guess. I don't know.
Well,
I know that
so far I would
Japan
argue
has
that
opened up
the
a
show
lot.
of the year. The show of the year is probably BNA.
Yes.
And
Ooh.
it's not even that great.
Yeah.
And it's still probably the best show of the year.
I haven't even gone back to finish Tower of God or whatever the rest of it is, God of High School. I'm looking at winter 2021. It looks pretty
Winter
good.
2021 is going to have a lot of good stuff because that's where they shoved all of the delayed.
Yep.
Log Horizon Season 3 is going to be fantastic.
Right. So
I've heard that the quality keeps up.
I don't know, Sheepy. You sound like a bot. Nobody's that
The German Sheepy says, "Hey, you're creators. Stop for a moment and tell us what you guys are doing down the line." We're working on something.
We're working on something. It's going to be pretty great.
But yeah, we don't
No.
want to give details yet because we're not done with it yet.
Right? Like it's like legitimately like one of the things that I've been working on that I'm most excited to get out right now. Like my novel, The Time Stop King, is shaping up pretty well. And I'm starting to get it like better. Like my first draft is such a rough draft. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to go back and fix so much. I don't know. I am a bot. Lol,
Okay.
I am a bot. Okay, good. There we go. Um,
I don't know.
We've
Does a
been.
bot know it's a bot?
Does a bot know it's a bot? Not yet.
But
But
no, seriously, to answer Term and Sheepy, me and Ben and Ken Dickinson are working on something. But that's all we could really say because we're not done with it yet and we need to decide and we still need to make a lot of decisions.
yeah.
However, I'm going to tell all of you to pay attention to whatever we announce because it is something that is extremely cool.
Oh yeah.
In a certain way, it is the anime that since I started watching anime with Death Note years ago was the first real time that I sat down and watched something.
Anthony,
Not that's
you're
like
making me nervous. I don't know if
don't
I can
no.
deliver on these promises, Anthony.
Well, you should,
Anthony, it's all over. I can't
and
do
I'm
it anymore.
counting on you.
Anthony, no, this is too much pressure.
I say this except that Ben has actually gotten done more than
I'm hoping to have
well,
some advertising material this week from a friend of mine. And if
But if
it'll.
what I said sounded ambitious and like it and exciting but mysterious, that's because it is all of those things. And when you hear it, you're going, I think that everybody who listens to our show early is going to be very excited about it, legitimately. I think that we have the sort of audience that would be into this.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be good. We're putting a lot of heart and soul into this thing, and um, it's not going to be something it's going to be okay. It's going to be in the thought process of things that we've done before, but it's going to be like nothing we've done before. It's going to be great.
Exactly.
Um,
And I
and
was only half kidding when I said in some ways it was
except none of us are animators, Anthony. Anthony.
right. That's why I was half kidding. In some ways, it is like that.
So the best place to follow us and what we do is here and on the Superversive blog, which I will link.
Yep, that's where we'll make our announcement when we're ready to make an announcement.
Yep. And I don't really talk that much on it because I'm focused on working this stuff. But it's us just trying to make what we can. Like I usually don't talk until I've got something to show, which is probably bad of me because I need to keep myself in the public eye. But like I don't want to. Yeah, yeah.
I get what you mean though, because people, like nerd. I don't know if you follow Nerdstalgic at all.
No.
I follow him every now and then. Sometimes he does things that I like, but he's making a movie and he announced to like all of his followers that he's making a movie and whatever. And that always makes me go a little bit because he didn't actually make a movie yet.
Right.
He is asking for money so that he can make a movie.
Right.
Which, I mean, if you already put something out and I have a reason to believe that you could do it, that's one thing. But just going, I want to make a movie, give me money, and make YouTube videos is a little bit different.
Right. Like there's a guy who what was the guy who did that TIE fighter thing? Oh, that was amazing. Who's obsessed with 80s.
And I'm not saying, by the way, I have nothing bad Nostalgic either. For as far as I know, he's on SGU. He's just some guy,
Oda King.
reviews things, and he hasn't. What was that?
Oda King.
Oh,
Ota King. He was the guy who did that TIE fighter short film. That got
oh,
famous.
oh. Okay.
But sorry, no. Uh, like we do want
I
to make money off of this, but first we want to produce an awesome product.
Yeah, at the same time, I get the idea of I would rather, I'm proud of.
Yep. But at a certain point, we're just gonna throw it out there and we'll see what happens. Um, we will announce it here and we'll talk about it. And we'll have a live stream with me, you, and Ken, and it's just gonna be a fun time. But until then, yeah, that's how it's gonna be. So self-advertising is
Yep,
is not
the real
exactly
pressure is on me now because I'm the last one to get my part of the thing done, and I have a deadline, and I am confident I'll be done by the deadline, but this is good because it puts more pressure on me. That's not even ironic. That's not even me being sarcastic. I mean it. Like, it's good to have more,
right,
more of an excuse to push me to get it finished.
and it's as much to make me go as well. Even though like it's just one more bit of weight. But as a good Protestant once said after being crushed by the Pope's men on a giant pile of bricks, more weight. Let's
That
be,
wasn't what that's from.
isn't it?
That was the Salem witch trials.
It is not.
That was Protestants crushing Protestants.
All right, fine. I gotta look into this. Listen,
That's what I
guys,
thought, anyway.
right? Giles Corey.
That was from the Crucible.
Yeah, all right, you're right. Yeah,
Whatever.
you're right.
It has nothing to do with anything.
Listen,
I just noticed
I
that.
get most of my history from memes, all right? I stopped reading original sources when I got bored, and I just go memes now. This is real meme time. If it isn't in a meme, I won't learn it. I need something I can digest in exactly 0.5 seconds, and then it determine my entire like weird things I say about it. How about that? Does that work for you?
Eh, sure, that'll
All
work.
right. All right. Now, when you send your rough draft to me, I expect there to be plenty of meme images with your rough draft in every single put it. You know what I mean? Just the entire thing in
I'll work
memes.
on it.
All right, fantastic. You may use Pepe and Dog memes, and anyway. Ah well. Um. So that's it. Do you have anything else to say, Anthony?
The goal is to get Trigger to do our project one day.
Absolutely. And then get a Patreon or whatever survives after the digital apocalypse and get Bitcoin monies so that we can buy
Subscribe
bread.
star.
Subscribe star. Absolutely. Um, I don't care.
That's it. Now
I
I'm
just
done.
don't want to work at my current job anymore. Okay, it's a lot of work. It's hard work. Okay, it's just I just want to be a famous author. Yeah, right. Guys, as always, thank you for joining. Determined Sheepy, welcome. You know, hope you find stuff you enjoy. Um, I did Tears of Elfland. I guess I'll copy that and post it in chat if you wanna read something I've done specifically. And then is God Robot still around? Yeah, it should
It
be.
is.
Yeah. And God Robot,
I still have to talk to Jaji about Tails, but God Robot's still out there.
yep. And yeah, I actually have like the last physical copy of Tales of the Once and Future King. It's great.
The very last one,
Very last one on the Superversive
outside of the
warehouse,
two that I own,
which is like
and
my bedroom.
Mine is signed by John, I think.
Oh ho ho.
I
Oh
think
ho.
John. No, it's signed by Jaji because I met the rights at a book signing, And I brought Mists of Everness with me, which I owned, but I didn't own any physical books by Chachi. I had them all as ebooks. So I brought Tales of the Once and Future King and had her sign her.
Mm-hmm.
You may have noticed that means I was way too cheap to actually buy the book that she was trying to sell there. That's because I was poor. Was. Still am.
Not for much longer. But anyway. No. Hi. Alright, guys. Thank you for
The
joining.
German cheapie. One last thing, actually, because he says he's been perusing the channel. Check out my Trigun video. I really like that one.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Pretty
I
good
want
script.
people to watch that video. I had fun doing it. Anywho, that's it. Now.
Alright. Have a good one, guys. See you again next time.